What is academic language? The words you choose to use in your presentations convey your tone, attitude and purpose. In this case, you are presenting for an academic and professional audience, and your word choice should match this. There are a few simple points to remember here. First, avoid saying, "I will tell you something about." Be more specific. Tell the audience exactly what you plan on doing. Will you be explaining, describing, outlining, convincing, examining, investigating, informing, etc.? The list is endless. While your goal is to keep your talk accessible, you should still carefully consider your word choice and try to integrate academic alternatives where you can. This does not mean finding the most obscure words that no one will understand, but using words from the academic word list. Here are some good examples of simple and informal words: to buy, to get, a lot of, thing, good, bad, like. Each of these also has numerous academic alternatives that are much more concise and nuanced in their meaning. Once again, context is important to know which academic synonym would be best to use. But some examples for these usual suspects are purchase and acquire, for to buy, obtain, achieve, receive, to mention just a few, for to get. We see quite a lot of, which should be replaced with substantial, numerous, many, and so on. Thing could really mean anything. Thing could mean aspect, point, issue, advantage. The options here are almost endless. The same holds true for good and bad, which could refer to something positive or negative, strong or weak, or advantageous or disadvantageous, and so on. And finally, such as, for example, and for instance, are better alternatives to use than like. You should also avoid using like as a filler. It is important to use audience-engaging language throughout your presentation to keep the presentation personal. For example, you could say, "If I can draw your attention to," when you would like to point something out on the screen, or "let's move on to," when starting a new point. You can draw on their previous language with, "as you may know," or show your awareness that what you have described may raise some questions. At this point, you may be wondering why. Be careful, however, not to become too informal and say, "you guys." This is generally inappropriate. While you are speaking, it is better to join some words together because that sounds the most natural, like I'm and you're. Articulating I and am separately just sounds strange. However, when you write it on a PowerPoint slide, be sure to write it out in full. This is much more professional. To conclude, carefully consider your language when preparing your presentation. Be sure to integrate audience-engaging language, but remain professional.